I've seen other people where it's like completely deflated them or completely kept the fire
me too.
out. But every time this has happened to me, it just lit that shit under me that much more. Because it's like,
That's right.
No, I'm not going to be told no. I am going to have a job in professional wrestling.
Yeah.
I'm going to be a star.
Wrestling is life. Wrestling is life. Wrestling is life. Is wrestling.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Wrestling is Life is Wrestling with Cody Diener. I am Cody Diener, and I am a professional wrestler. I'm a professional wrestling producer with TNA Wrestling. I'm a professional speaker traveling all across the nation, going into schools and sharing my story with youth and the lessons that I've learned along the way. I am also a father to 4 wonderful children and a husband to 1 wonderful and beautiful wife. And this is my podcast. This is part 2 with the Death Machine, Sami Callihan, and we're creeping up on episode 52, which would mark 1 year of this crazy project that I started almost a year ago, where I decided I want to talk to some professional wrestlers and some friends in the professional wrestling business. Let them share their story and see if we can take out some life lessons that I think can help my listeners, whether they're wrestling fans or not. I know that the life of professional wrestlers, it's always crazy, it's always wild, it's entertaining, but it's also educational. We can learn some things from these pro wrestlers, and we learned some things last week from part 1 with Sami Callihan. He went into immense detail about his journey. He even says more detail than he's ever gone into when he's talked to somebody on a podcast or a show or conversation. It's being recorded. He's never gone into this much detail. So we are giving that to you just like we did last week. We're going to continue doing that here for part 2 with Sami Callihan. But before we jump into part 2, let me just shill some things that I think are important. Those are my sponsors. They help me bring this show to you for free on YouTube, on Spotify, on Apple, or whatever your podcast platform of choice may be. So let's talk about Rest When Dead Clothing. They're on Instagram at Rest When Dead Clothing. They're also online where you can shop the entire collection, where you can get the hat I'm wearing or the t-shirts that are in the background if you're watching this on YouTube at Cody Diener Podcast. Why don't you go to restwhendead.ca, check out the entire collection today. We have some sponsored athletes that you might be familiar with if you're a TNA Wrestling fan. We got Crazy Steve, we got Jody Threat, we got Jake Something, and they love Rest When Dead. You should too. Go to restwhendead.ca if you need your workout to go to the next level. Why don't you get some supplements? The best supplements in the world. Where can you get those? You get those at ceofit.ca. They're another proud sponsor of this podcast. You can support me by going to prowrestlingtees.com/Cody Diener. Get yourself a t-shirt. You can go to cameo.com/Cody Diener. Get yourself a personalized video for yourself or a loved one. Or better yet, you can go to patreon.com/Cody Diener right now. Sign up for a free trial, and you would have got this whole conversation right now with Sami Callihan early and ad-free like 2 weeks ago. You can also get next week's guest early and ad-free. The entire episode will be up there shortly if you're listening to this when this drops, as well as bonus stories. There's a bonus story right now with Sami Callihan and every single one of my past guests, both video and audio. Wicked awesome bonus stories that you will not be getting on this podcast, the free version. Nope, they're only over on patreon.com/Cody Diener. If you'd like to book me for your independent wrestling event, you can go to book Cody at codydiener.com. And if you wait till the end of this show, I'll tell you my upcoming summer schedule that we got going right now. And you can find out where you can see me live and buy some merch from me live and in person. But we'll do that at the end of the show. Right now, we're going to hop into part 2. We left off last week on a cliffhanger. If you didn't listen to last week, go back into the archives, pause right now, go listen to part 1, the detailed, insightful conversation that we had with Sami Callihan, and then we will continue right now with part 2 with my friend and definitely yours, the one and only Death Machine, Sami Callihan.
It's like an hour before I left for Japan. I got a call from Joey Mercury. He's like, oh yeah, we want to book you. And this is before they did tryouts. This is when it was like, you get booked as an extra and there was actual tryouts before the show. Yeah. And this is when someone named Ty Bailey was in charge of hiring people. So I was like, oh fuck yeah, dude. Like, yeah, I'll do it. He's like, okay, it's on this day. I was like, I get back from Japan that day. And it was like 8 hours away for like the fucking extra work. I was like, I'll be there. So I legit landed back from Japan, had bags waiting for me with clean stuff at the airport, and then drove to Boston. And Tommaso Ciampa was like, you stay at my house, dude. Like, I was like, oh, fuck yeah. So I went, knocked it out of the park. Freaking, I got to cut a promo for Regal and Brooklyn Brawler. And like, they're like, oh my, like, I cut one of the best promos of my fucking life. And they're like, you're the fucking man. To the point that fucking Bill DeMont, who was the head trainer at FCW at the time, was there working as an agent that week. And he came up to me and he was like, what if they asked, and this is where I had long, crazy hair. He's like, what if we asked you to cut your hair? I was like, I'll cut my hair and wear a pink tutu if you want. I don't give a fuck. Like, and he's like, good answer. He's like, we'll be working together soon. And I was like, I'm getting fucking signed. Yeah. And then like all the rumors through people's like, oh yeah, they're going to off. Ty Bailey's going to hit you up soon. He's like off doing something international right now. Like when he gets back, like you're going to get offered a deal. I was like, fucking, I did it. Didn't hear anything. And then it broke on all the dirt sheets. Ty Bailey fired by WWE. And I was like, what? I was like, I don't even know how to contact at this point. So now Canyon Seaman comes in. Yeah. And now he has a whole new group of people that he's looking at. I go right back down to the bottom of the list. I have no contact. So I finally got hit up randomly. I got a call from him like 8 months later. Like, hey, Canyon Seaman, we're doing this tryout. Like, it's not like at a live event. It's like actually at FCW that there's going to be 100 people at. And these 100 people are all paying $5,000 a piece, except for 20 of them that we're inviting. Like, you're one of the ones we're inviting. Like, we'll handle your hotel, your travel. Because like the whole deal was this tryout they did was out of the 80 people that paid $5,000 or $6,000 to do it, they were going to give one person a contract.
Okay.
Which ended up being Buddy Murphy.
Okay.
Of all people. So
do you remember someone named, was it Tyler Turva? Do you know Tyler Turva?
Yes,
friend, was he there? Was he there?
Maybe. I've seen him 1,000 times.
Okay, because he told me a story similar to this about this.
He's always been on the cusp.
Yes, he has.
Tyler Turva.
Yeah, he's awesome. Anyway, sorry, I didn't want to.
So, dude, I made it to the point like I worked so hard for this trial. I was like, I'm gonna be the best motherfucker there. Like, I know there's gonna be a bunch of athletes and all this shit and all this bullshit. So I go in and I remember Buddy Murphy later on was like, that entire fucking tryout was just to hire you. But dude, they made me jump through so many fucking bells and whistles. So I get there, they're like, do the things like where you take your shirt off, they take a picture of you, they weigh you, they fucking measure you. Like, so they weigh me, I have a good look, they measure me. Okay, cool, we're getting ready to start for the day. And then like, they come up to me, is like, we're sorry, man, we got to measure you without your boots. And I was like, the short thing, here it comes. Yeah. So they measure me without my boots, and like, I'm like, fuck me. So I'm like, and I was told by a couple of the people that was working the tryout, like, dude, you gotta be unbreakable in this. Like, don't let them fucking have a reason. I was like, okay. So dude, like, I went fucking hard, like to the point, like, I remember the first day, all these athletes and all these people that never should have had a tryout ever, that was delusional, that paid a bunch of money for the tryout. We kept doing this push-up thing where we had to do like X amount of push-ups. People kept fucking it up and we had to restart it. So, but it was just a competition. That's all it fucking was. Like when you look down at it, we ended up doing something like 280 push-ups. And like anytime someone would get started, they'd make, sit down. You ain't shit. Mm-hmm. I won that motherfucker, dude. Like, nice. I was just pushing push-ups. During the second day of the tryout, I had to do a drill with some guy that didn't know how to wrestle, and he almost blew my knee out. So they didn't want me to do any more of the trial. I was like, no, I'm doing this. Like, and I think that like I taped up, and like, even though we were like, I got through the shit. Yep. So at the end of the tryout, there was me and this guy that I believe he's Persian or did a Persian gimmick. He was an OVW guy at the time.
Okay.
I want to say his name was Ali also, like something Ali.
Okay.
Canyon Seaman came up to us and he goes, "We're hiring you two." I was like, "Fuck yeah." Like I'm getting hired.
Wow.
Me and this dude, like, because we're actually rooming that day together like that. And we're like, "Fuck yeah, we're getting fucking hired."
Yeah.
30 minutes later, Canyon Seaman comes back with like his head down. He goes, "I'm sorry to do this, guys, but as you know, I'm new to the job. I can't just hire who I want to hire. We're not saying we're not going to hire you, but you're like kind of different than what WWE would hire." Like the Ali guy, I think was like 34 at the time. They're like, "You're a little too old. And Sammy, you're not exactly the height of a superstar that we would want." So I was like, they're like, "But we have to get a second. We have to get a second look at you. We're going to fly you guys up in a couple weeks to a live event. Like Raw or SmackDown or something. And before the show, you're going to have like a legit like look by all the main people."
Mm-hmm.
So I get there, and by the grace of God, Finley had got rehired there. So as soon as I walk in, he sees me, gives me a big hug. I cut a promo. Me and that guy, we have to have a dark match before they even let the people in the building with a bunch of the boys, like all like the main agents just sitting there.
That's the worst.
Watching a match.
Worst. Oh my God. Yeah.
We do good. They walked up to Ali. Is like, we're going to pass Ali, and look at me like, "You're going to wrestle dark match tonight." And I was like, "Oh, fucking yes."
Yeah.
Like, and I wrestled Fandango on his first match ever as Fandango.
Sweet.
And I made him look like $1 million fucking dollars. Yep. And I took I'm not a good person that takes back body drops. I've never been. I took like on the fly. He just shot my ass off. And like, he's like, "Yo, dude, freaking back body drop." I was like, "Oh, fuck." I took like the craziest Jeff Hardy body drop at last minute tuck, like perfect. I got to the back, Finley, like you fucking killed it. And then Canyon Seaman's like, "You'll be hearing from us soon." So I was like, "Okay, I'm getting hired." So like I kept hitting him up every couple of weeks, like, hey, like, because squeaky wheel gets the oil. I'm not gonna let this. I want him to know that I want this fucking job. I kept hitting him up. Like 6 months went by. He's like, "Look, like, don't think this is bad." He's like, we're just not bringing in a new class FCW because we're building the performance center. We just don't know when it's opening." So kept having it. Finally, like, okay, the performance. I get hit up in it was like November 2012. No, not November. It was like January 2013. And he goes, "We got a date. The performance center is open in July. We'd like to welcome you to the first class of the WWE Performance Center." I was like, fucking A. So that's the second chapter of Big Breaks. Because WWE itself is a whole other fucking story, dude. That's another chapter of this.
Yeah. Well,
I am talking a lot.
You are, dude. You're making my job really easy. I'm just asking questions. Sami Callihan gives me the.
I don't think I've ever went this in depth on like everything.
Really? Okay. Yeah. Well, I love it because, man, there's like so many kind of lessons that, like, as you're talking, I'm like, I can't even keep up with the things that I started writing things down because you'd say something, "Oh, that's good, and I don't want to stop your train of thought. But like one thing that stood out to me through all of that is, you just mentioned it there at the end again, like the squeaky wheel gets the grease, like you messaging them constantly, you also hounding Gabe like every week. I think that's one thing that I think I wish I would have done more of. I'm too much of a polite Canadian that's like, "Oh, I don't want to bother them," but you have to. You have to be relentless. And
there's a fine line that you got to walk between being annoying and like, which I have crossed many times. I guarantee it.
Yes. Right.
But it's one of those things. It's a problem with my students right now and just wrestlers in general. Like, there's so many people who's like, "Oh, they want me, they'll contact me." It's like, no, dude, even when I was like at one point the biggest star in the indies, even when I left WWE, even at TNA before, like I had signed like an exclusive deal when I first came there. If I didn't have a booking, I'd find a fucking booking. Like, that's why I wrestled for, dude, there was a span of like when I left WWE to like when I came to TNA under not a guarantee, under just like a, "Hey, we're giving you an opportunity, like kick this shit out of the park and we'll talk about a major deal." It was like a 2.5 year span where I was wrestling for Impact, MLW, Lucha Underground, New Japan, fucking everywhere around the fucking world. I had 5 bookings a week, every fucking week for 2.5 weeks. And I fucking loved it, dude. I loved it.
Yes. So the other thing that really stands out to me that is related, but like, just listen to your story, bro. It's like, one of the reasons I let you keep going and I don't want to cut off the train of thought. It's like this roller coaster of ups and downs. And right when you think it's like, oh yeah, we've reached the cusp, it's going to happen, the dream's happening. And then boom, there's disappointment. Something happens. And then I'm working my ass off. I'm doing my thing, the squeaky wheel, the perseverance, the hard work, the grit. And then boom, the rug gets pulled. Dude, my story is very similar. Every time where I thought there was this opportunity, this is the moment something would happen.
It's gonna happen,
right? Someone gets fired, or oh no, that person leaves the job, or oh no, this new edict is now coming down. So that thing we told you, never mind. Like, so I know so many guys that were either the next big thing or that everybody praised and thought they were gonna be the guy. And it sounds like that happened to you, right? You get these tryouts and everyone's talking. It's like, oh, this is happening. And when it doesn't, the disappointment is so detrimental to them and such a downer that they quit and you never see them again. And they were a flash in the pan. And from that story alone, and we're only on the 2nd chapter, that alone is like, no, whatever it is about you, Sami, and I don't know what it is, and maybe you have insight, maybe you know, maybe you don't, but it's like, when that disappointment comes, rather than it being water that puts out the fire, it gets used as fuel so that fire can shine brighter, so that I'm not
for me 100%. I've seen other people where it's like completely deflated them or completely
me too.
For every time this has happened to me, it just lit that shit under me that much more, because it's like,
that's right.
No, I'm not going to be told no. I am going to have a job in professional wrestling. I'm going to be a star. Like,
and I love that, going back to what you said earlier, I love that you got to sign that contract, in front of your dad and like show him that you made it. And even though it might not have been a crazy amount of money, it was a lot for you at the time. You'd achieved this goal. Man, we've been talking for a while and we haven't even hit this WWE NXT chapter.
How long does your episodes usually go?
So usually my episodes I usually talk to somebody for about an hour, but then I split that into a 2-part. So it's like 2 half-hour segments. So like, we're already getting near the end of like a part 2. Like, geez, like we could do like a 7-part trilogy with Sami Callihan.
I ruined it.
No, you didn't. But I want to like
see. You can go as long as you want to go.
Okay.
Yeah, me until whenever.
Okay. Wow. Okay. So I appreciate that. I think
I already hit up Ace Austin and be like, yo, you run training tonight. Like, I'm a film with Diener. He's like, okay. I got you. All right.
Okay. Sweet. So I definitely want to talk about the WWE chapter, NXT chapter, not because it's like, oh, that's the thing that everybody wants to hear, or because it's this bigger thing, but it's like, I think one of the main reasons I want to hear about it is that, I mean, for me in my career and a lot of guys from my generation, really anyone that's a wrestling fan, like, that's the pinnacle. That's the goal. That's the tunnel vision that most guys have, is like, I need to get there. And then for you, for someone who got there, had a particular experience and story, but then left there, it's, for whatever reason, that's a unique thing. And like, you deciding that you were going to go there or leave there, but then still it wasn't going to deflate you. You're going to use that to continue to keep going in the business. That's unique. That's not something that's common. So I want to touch on that. I want to know, what was that experience like in general? What lessons were learned?
I learned a tremendous amount there. Like, so It's like, even though all the time wasn't tremendous, I learned so much that made me a better professional wrestler, made me a more professional wrestler, taught me about social media branding even more so than like I could have ever dreamed of. Like, so it was extremely pivotal to my career.
Yeah. So what, you can go into as much of it as you want in terms of how detailed you want to get into your time there. But I think I would like to know is, like, you say you learned a lot. Like, was there a story that sticks with you that's like, that's that was such a good learning experience for me. You know, that, like you said earlier, everything happens for a reason. You realize that thing happened for a reason because it needed to teach you that to get you to the next level. Is there something, or is it easier or better for you to just be like, here's the experience, let me tell you about it, and then we can go from there? I don't know.
I'll try to go a little more brief through it than some of the other stuff. But when I first got there, I was so hyped and everything else. NXT was starting to take off. It's like, yes, they want like indie wrestlers. Like finally, like
that was huge. I noticed that. That was a big turn, man. I remember you getting signed. I remember other guys getting signed and going, "Oh man, this is different." Because indie was a 4-letter word.
I was 8 months too late and a year too early. If that makes any sense. And I remember Gabe Sapolsky told me, he's like, you should hold off on signing to WWE. And at the time I was like, oh no, you just want me for Evolve and Dragon Gate.
Wow.
Like, he's like, dude, he's like, if you give he's like, you're already like the guy. He's like, if you give yourself one more year, you'll be like so unbreakable and bulletproof. By the time you go there, you'll go there in a better position. And he's like, timing is everything. And I wish I would have listened to him at that time. Like,
that's interesting, man. Wow.
Because if I would have went in there with the same class as guys as like Sami Zayn and Neville, I think I would have been looked at as differently. But I was the first class of the Performance Center, which that's its own mess on its own. There was like certain ways they had to go about business with new talent and everything else.
Okay.
And if I would have been a year later, once they figured out what the PC was and Finn Balor and Shinsuke and Kevin Owens came in, I would have been in a different position there. But I came in as like the first class. I was one of the first people to walk through the doors of that building. I was the first class of that building. And it was way different than what it even became into my time there.
Oh, okay.
So the first day I got there, it was like, there was no training or anything. It was like a bunch of meetings, like, orientation. And it was the same day that there was going to be an NXT taping. Pretty much here in the orientation, they told us like, you guys are all the first class. You ain't going to do shit for a while. Like everyone has to follow protocol at the PC. We spent millions of dollars on this building. Like, it's going to work. Like, we're going to do exactly by the book. I was like, okay, well, that sucks. Like, I want to wrestle on shows, but okay, like, I get it. That same day, Joey Mercury runs up to me. He's like, make sure you bring gear to NXT tonight. And I was like, why? He's like, they have an idea for you. I think you're going to debut tonight. And I was like, oh, yes. The writer came up to me, who was Ryan Ward at the time. I think he writes for SmackDown now. Yeah. He's like, and he had saw all my promos that I had filmed and produced myself on the indies. He's very horror movie-esque. And he's like, we love this. He's like, we want you to be like the serial killer character. We have this ideas for lighting and like these vignettes. And I was, dude, I got hyped up. I was like, oh, of course, I'm coming right on. Like, I was pretty much told from the get-go, you're coming right in and you're getting on television. Like, we have an idea for you. So that night, I'm like there waiting. They're like, hey, Ryan Ward came. He's like, hey, man, it's not a bad thing. We're just going to hold off for like a week or two. We want to get everything in the PC handled before we introduce some new characters. Okay, cool. Like, I'm excited. The next set of tapings, like, so a couple weeks later, I was the first one of any of the new class to get on a live event, which Coconut Show, which isn't aired. It's a house show. And I wrestled Xavier Woods, who's like one of the best human beings I've ever met in my life. And before he's like, yo, dude, he goes, this is make or break for you. You got to like kick it out of the park, or you're going to be with the other trainees like for a while. And I was like, awesome. He's like, dude, hit me as hard as you fucking can. He goes, I'm not going to tell on you. He goes, like, be you. He's like, to his credit, he's like, be you, dude. Like, and he also did that for me. One of the times I was an extra, like, and I had to roll around in the ring with someone. He's like, dude, hit me as hard as you can. They like that shit. He's like, I'm not going to bitch. Like,
oh, wow. That's
cool. So we have our match, and it's tremendous. It's amazing. Like, I'm like over cloud nine. I get to the back, and as soon as I walk through the curtain, I am getting screamed at. That was way too violent. Like, yada, yada, yada. That's too aggressive. That's this. And then Bill DeMott was like, you're way too small to be that violent. Like, you can't be that aggressive. Like, if it wasn't for Xavier, that match would have been a mess. Yada, yada, yada. And I was like, what the fuck is going on? You're not going to be on shows again for a while till you can learn, like, not be so aggressive. Like, so I was like, so the next TV taping came around. Ryan Ward's like, hey man, we can't debut anyone new until like we go through some protocol with NXT and yada, yada, yada. I didn't wrestle again on a show for 6.5 months.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Miserable. Going to every live event, setting up, working security, like doing all the stuff. And why I see other people start getting like cherry picked to get debut on NXT, debut on NXT. I shot these vignettes with me and Dusty Rhodes that like came up with the hacker character that if it was done right, it could have been really good. Which to the point, they're doing the exact thing on fucking Raw right now.
Yes, they
with
are.
Uncle Howdy, like that we did at TNA to a T, the exact thing, not like, oh, that's kind of rip off. No, the exact build, the exact thing. But to each their own. Dusty Rhodes was a big proponent for me. I was one of his broken toys. He's like, you can be like the next CM Punk.
That's
so I'm
awesome.
like, fucking yes. So I was just on live events. We were just like, oh, they're not ready to debut you. And I was just throwing characters out there. Every promo class, I was doing a different character that I would see get stolen and used on television. I would cut stuff in promos where there was a system. Every promo would go into the system that anyone could watch during promo class, and like legit word for word, some like lines I'd have in promos would get used on television by people, to the point where Dusty Rhodes told me, he's like, quit cutting promos, character promos, just cut promos about inanimate objects. So I just started cutting random promos about inanimate objects. So we're trying at one point, and then they're like, okay, we want you to wrestle more like a lucha guy. You're a small guy. We want you to like everything that makes me don't do it. Like, don't be aggressive, don't be a striker. Like, so at one point I was supposed to be one of the lucha dragons. They were going to put me under a mask with Kalisto. And we were working on live events, like me and Kalisto in tag matches. And I remember we wrestled the Ascension. We wrestled Big Con. And so I was like, finally, I'm going to get my break at NXT. I'm going to get on fucking television. This is going to be fucking great. Awesome. I was in a match with Connor and Victor of the Ascension. I did a Mexican head scissors, over rotated, landed on my feet, broke my ankle. So back to the drawing board. Now I'm just miserable again for another 4 or 5 months. Still just doing live events. And at that point, dude, I'm wrestling like I'm the main event of like every live event, wrestling like Kevin and Tyler Breeze and Balor, like having 20-minute matches, like killing it. But like still every time TV comes around, we're waiting. Nothing happens. And that point, I was even every dark match at NXT, at the NXT arena, like to the point, like a bunch of the boys in the back were calling me Dark Match Undertaker. Cause I was like, 21-0 in dark matches on NXT.
I want to take a quick timeout right now to tell you about this product. Review time. Yes, CEOFit.ca review time. Let's talk about a wicked awesome supplement that you can buy right now at CEOFit.ca. We're today looking at Essential Greens. It's by TC Nutrition Essential Series. It is a company out of Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, and the flavor of these essential greens is Saskatoon berry. Now, are you someone like me that either hates certain vegetables or just at least has a hard time getting all the nutrients needed from your vegetables because you're just, you're eating, you're on the go, and the last thing you're thinking about is cooking up this extra batch of vegetables to throw in this meal prep that you got? I don't know if you're like me, but I'm like that. I get my meat, I get my potatoes, or I get my meat, I get my rice, I get my fish, and then the veggies end up becoming an afterthought sometimes in my meal prep. So I don't have to let them be an afterthought anymore. I can make sure that I get all the nutrients I need for my veggies right here from Essential Greens. Now, I've had Essential Greens products before, like veggie in scoops, and they're freaking disgusting. This Saskatoon berry flavored Essential Greens by TC Nutrition is, I'm not kidding, the best Essential Greens product I've ever tasted. It's got your phytonutrients and antioxidants. It's only sweetened with stevia. There's no sugar. It's made with all natural flavors. It's GMO free, and there's 30 servings per container. It is awesome. It is tasty, and it's loaded with all your green concentrates, your land vegetables, sea vegetables, phytonutrients, fiber blends. It's got everything in there. I mean, I'm just looking at this ingredients. Look at that. It's insane the amount of supplementary facts that are on the side of this thing from all the nutrients that you're going to be getting. So where do you get this? I'll tell you right now, you get it at ceofit.ca. TNA. Scroll through all the wicked awesome supplements that they have and make sure you get your essential greens. Get Saskatoon berry flavor specifically made right in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. So if you're a Canadian listener, you're supporting a wicked awesome Canadian company. So head on over to ceofit.ca today to get your essential greens. That's ceofit.ca.
Then at one point there was a girl there. I'm not going to bring up her name because she got canceled, but they're going to put us together as like these misfit, like kind of like foster brother and sister that like were like pretty much punks, like yada yada, and they loved the concept. They took like pictures of us, and at one point they were talking like, oh, this might go right to the main roster. You guys, like, we might not even debut on NXT because like they haven't seen you, so like we can debut right on the main roster. We debut on a live event with it. It gets super over. She gets canceled that day. Back to the drawing board. So, so I finally had like kind of a nervous breakdown. I just went home and cut my hair real short. Like, and I had like long hair at that point, and got back, and like I thought I was gonna get screamed at, but they loved it. I was like, okay, cool. And then Dusty Rhodes like, dude, he's like, you need something. He's like, I don't know what they're waiting on. So that night I went out and bought a nice leather jacket like Jericho's, because he kept saying like, oh, you're like Jericho, like you're like CM Punk. I wore a leather jacket, went out for my dark match, had my match that Monday. Dusty Rhodes pulls me in the office. He's like, they're debuting you this week. I was like, how? He's like, with vignettes. I'm like, what vignettes? Oh, the vignettes that you shot like a year and a half ago. And I was like, what? I was like, I look different than that. And he's like, and Triple H already told me he doesn't like the hacker gimmick. He asked me, why would a hacker wrestler? I said, why would an undead wizard wrestle? But teach their own. He's like, yeah. He's like, your dark match got it. It was the leather jacket. Dusty's like, they see Jericho in you now because of the leather jacket. I was like, a fucking leather jacket. So, okay.
Wrestling is so crazy.
So they do the vignettes.
Oh my God.
They debut me with the hacker character with just the vignettes. I attack Juice and I cut a promo. And then Triple H yells at me, you're not a hacker. Quit cutting hacker promos. But the writers were writing me hacker promos. I was just told, this is a cool way to debut you. You're not a hacker. It's just like Jericho's Save Us Y2J. You're not a hacker. But they keep writing that.
Yeah.
It comes time for my first match, which was supposed to be a get over match for me. But I can't put all the blame on someone. But there was an agent there. That was our agent. I called my match, me getting all my shit in. I was wrestling Bull James at the time.
Yep.
It was just legit. It was like a 3-minute match. Like, get your shit in. This is your debut match. Awesome. We called the match. Our agent said, no, we hate that. He turns in the match into ding, 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 me getting cut off, me getting my ass beat for 2.5 minutes, me rallying a comeback into the finish. And I was like, what the? Knowing what I know now, I wish I would have went to Triple H and been like, like, I'm supposed to, but I didn't. I got to the back. I got screamed at. This match was supposed to be about you. What the hell? And like, I didn't want to throw anyone under the bus. So I was like, oh, I'm sorry. And that kind of like fucked me from day one. Yeah. So I was just kind of I was used sporadically. I was having matches. I wasn't being used prevalently. I was just like, oh, you're wrestling Baron Corbin this week. Have a good match. You're teaming with Adrian Neville in the Dusty Classic. Like, have a good match, but you're taking the fall. Like, okay, cool. No problem. Yeah. So I wrestled Kevin Owens when he was NXT champion. And this was like right before he got called to the main roster. And I was wrestling him on every live event. And we had this live event in Orlando where me and him wrestled, and it was like unreal, killed it. So I come into NXT that next week for TV tapings, and Joey Mercury comes up and he's like, dude, today's your fucking day. He's like, they heard all the reports. They watched the match of you and Kevin. You're getting that tonight on TV. Like, this is your chance. You're opening the show, interrupting Kevin with a promo, which I never did at the time there. And we're setting up you versus Kevin for the title later tonight. And I was like, it was like an 18-minute match, like 2.5 segment match. I was like, this is my fucking chance. Like, they finally see it. It's going to happen. All of a sudden, about an hour later, it's told to like Kevin and them that Kevin's going to debut and wrestle Cena next week. And Kevin had hurt his back on the live event. And he's like, dude, I'm sorry, dude. I didn't mean to do this to you. Like, we're only going like 3 minutes now. Like, my back's hurt. I have to be good to wrestle Cena next week. And I was just like, so it went from like this big thing to me pretty much getting my ass beat in fucking 3.5 minutes.
Oh man.
Back to the fucking drawing boards. I'm now NXT starts fucking
What a roller coaster.
Now it starts traveling.
Yeah.
We're doing arenas. I'm wrestling Kalisto on every live event in front of like 5,000 people. We're doing these traveling shows. I'm wrestling Uha Nation every fucking week. Fucking killing it. Finally, it comes to the point, fucking me and Uha, I get booked in just pretty much a get over match for Uha on television. Uha debuted. They're like, oh yeah, just do what you do at live events, but like shorter. It's like about Uha. They walk away, and Uha, who was my amazing human being, he says, fuck that dude. He goes, we're doing our match. He's like, I'll take the heat for it. Like, let's go out and fucking kill it.
Yeah.
We went out, fucking killed it. I got to the back, ready to get screamed at. Triple H kind of cornered me. He's like, what the fuck was that? I was like, oh, I'm sorry, sir. He's like, where the fuck has this dude been for the last fucking 2 years? And I was like, and dude, my blood starts boiling because it's everything that I've been held down and not able to do. And to their credit, Billy Gunn and Norman Smiley walked out. He goes, oh, this is the guy that main events all your fucking house shows.
Yeah.
And Triple H is like, I see it. He's like, okay, cool. He's like, we're going to do some shit. I was like, awesome. So came down, Triple H is like, yo, we're going to take you off TV to repackage you. I have an idea. Have you ever seen Smoking Aces? He's like, you know the brothers from that. Like, I was like, oh yeah. He's like, we kind of want to do that. Think of a name for it, design gear. It was going to be Sanity. I originally the name I pitched was Edge of Sanity because I was a big Delirious mark growing up. So I was like, he hailed from the Edge of Sanity. I grew up the gear. It's supposed to be me, Sawyer Fulton, and Marcus Louis. And they're like, this is going to debut right after this is going to debut in September. September comes around. Oh, we're going to debut it next month. Okay. Next month comes around. Oh, we're going to debut it next month. And each time I'm just like, now I'm not working live events because I'm getting repackaged. I'm just setting up, watching the same matches over. I'm like in the most miserable state of my life ever.
Yeah.
December comes around. I'm like, hey, Trips, are we going to debut this? We're going to wait till after Mania and make a big impact with it. And I remember going home that day and I said, I'm fucking done. Like, I can't do this anymore. Like freaking, I can't do this. And I remember I called, that Monday, I went to one more live event and like I left in the middle of the live event. I got so mad. Like I was like, I can't fucking do this anymore. Yeah. And like I talked to a couple of my buddies and stuff, and they're like, they kept trying to talk me out of it, I was like, nah, dude, I gotta make a bet on myself. I gotta fucking do this shit. Yeah. So I hit up Baldo, Matt Bloom, and I was like, hey man, I think I'm done. And he's like, oh, don't come in Monday. Like, let's talk about it. So I came in Monday. He tried to like talk me out of it. He's like, well, he's like, I understand if this is what you want. He's like, I'll help you get bookings if you want. I was like, no offense, I don't need your help getting bookings. Like, I'm about to blow the fuck up when I leave. And he's like, well, we got to have a conference call with Canyon Seaman. And Canyon Seaman was like talking to me, and almost to the point where he's like, dude, we have big plans for you. Like, trust me, like it's going to be good. Like, we have this whole group, which later went on to be Eric Young Insanity. Like that was supposed to be, I was supposed to be in Eric Young's role in that group.
Okay.
Which now in hindsight, seeing what that became, maybe the best call I made. But there was one line that Canyon Seaman said to me that made me be like, nope, I'm done. He said, just so you know, I'm not saying the door is going to be closed or anything. Like, you were one of the star pupils here. Like, you did everything by the book. All the coaches have nothing but good things to say about you. But I don't go out of my way to hire 5'8" white kids from Ohio. And I went, yep, I'm done. Like, my decision is like, I'm about to shove this shit up your fucking ass, dude. Like, and like, I get like, he has a hard job. Like, he had to maintain like his ass is on the line all the time. And I remember I left and I got home. I was like, I fucking did it. And I was like, fuck it. And like, I was like, I'm going to smoke weed for the first time in 3 years. And like, I was like, I'm not so I smoked. And then I got a call from Terry Taylor, who was like my coach at the time. And I got a call from Finn Balor. He's like, dude, just come back. He's like, they already said you can come back. Like, it's like, it never happened. Just come back tomorrow, be in class. I was like, dope, dude, not doing it. So like I have my exit interview. They're like, okay, so since it's NXT, it's not 90 days, it's 30 days. We'll pay you for the 30 days. And I was like, no, I don't want that. And they're like, what? And I was like, is there any way I could show up at a show in 2 days? And they're like, well, if you do that, we're not going to pay you. And I was like, I don't want paid. And they're like, what? Like, no, we want you to be good. Like, I was like, no, I don't want paid. So they're like, okay, if that's what you're going to do. That weekend, I showed up at Pro Wrestling Gorilla, AAW, and 2CW all on that weekend. And because of that weekend, it like knocked me to the next like echelon. And I made more money in that one weekend than I would in like 3 weeks at NXT. So I was like,
oh, hell yeah.
Made the right fucking call.
Yeah, you did. So as you were telling that epic tale, I kept thinking like, oh man, is this the breaking point? Is this the breaking point? And like, you kind of just kept going. And it's like, man, it's like, to me, the Wayne question I want to ask you about that is, was that a passion killer? Was it like, this is everything that I've wanted since I was a kid, and all you're doing is continuing to squash and kill my passion for this? I can't keep going if I lose my passion. Is that the reality of that situation, or is there more to it?
No, 100%. Like, it was one of those things, especially, dude, I'd always go to extra training. I was like always helping out other people. I was the first person there to set up, the last person to tear down. I made a point to play it by the book, which in hindsight, looking back, well, I watched other people that came in half-assed it, would take naps there and set up, like, just was like, nope, I'm not doing that, and get praised. I was like, I wish I would have just been an asshole. Like, and not played by the book. And
that's not the way. That's not you, man. You can't. Well, like, I know what you mean. Like, hindsight's always 20/20, but you got to stay true to yourself. And
I became like, Terry Taylor told me this, and he's like, look, dude, he's like, I support what you're doing. He's like, because I was like, dude, I became a shell of who I am. I'm not who I am as a wrestler. I'm not who I am as a person here.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
I'm like, he's like, in life, it's better to fail being who you are than to fail trying to be something you're not. And I said, yeah, man, that's like,
yes, that's what a good lesson. That was one of the things I wanted to hit on as it was coming to me as you were talking. It's like, there's something about I have such respect for people that succeed as their authentic self. And as you were telling that whole story, it's like every time you try to be your authentic self, which sounded like that was what Dusty was trying to do with you. You're one of his broken toys. He sees the authentic you and wants you to be able to bring that out of you, but there's only so much he can do in these different scenarios. But you being your authentic self is like, nope, don't give me my 90 days. Don't give me my 30 days. I'm going to go kill it. And now, bang, of course you blew up because your authentic self is showing up now. That's
100%. And Dusty, like, God rest his soul, if it wasn't for him, I would have probably quit so many times. And I didn't want to be a quitter, but he would tell if I was having a bad day, and I'd hear over the PA system, Solomon Crow, please report to Dusty Rhodes' office, in the middle of like a 4-hour training session where I'm getting dropped on my head by dumbass football players that don't know how to wrestle, that lasts for like 3 weeks there and either quit or get fired. And he'd come in there, he goes, you like Willie Nelson? I was like, yeah, I like Willie Nelson. He'd sit down and like be eating ice cream and just like, I just want someone to listen to Willie Nelson with. I was like, thank you, Dusty. Like,
oh, that's something that you will never be able to be taken.
And he did that with quite a few people that he like really liked. Like, he did. Dax Hardwood was like one of his guys. That, like,
yeah, that's special, man. That's super special. So when you leave and you do that weekend and you make that money and you're on this trajectory, because you're a goal-oriented person, and if you're in a place, this is one of the other things that kind of came to me as you were telling that chapter of WWE NXT, like, because you're such a goal-oriented person, if you're in a place where you can't achieve that goal, like, it's actually the barriers continue to pile up and you're literally unable to achieve the goal, well, then yes, it's time. The writing's on the wall. I got to leave because I'm a goal-oriented person. If I can't achieve that goal here, then I'll just go achieve that elsewhere. What became the goal then? Because you wanted to get a contract, you got it. Now you're out of it. I know a lot of people that one of the reasons I'm curious about this is because a lot of guys leave the WWE, they're either released or even sometimes on their own accord, and they're miserable because now they're goalless, or they're in this they don't even know what to do with themselves. That's usually when they get into their depression, or they have their issues because they've left this dream job. You're in this unique position where you want to leave, so you leave. Now what's the goal?
And it was one of those things, like, as you said, like, I wasn't a complacent person, still not a complacent person. If I wanted to stay there, I could have been a lifer probably in developmental. Like, I could have been a guy that stayed there for another 10 years, maybe got thrown a bone, maybe got lucky, like probably ended up a trainer or something there. Like,
right.
But I was like that, the security of a paycheck wasn't, I was like, look, I got to do this. Like, I got to have my legacy. My number one goal it wasn't to sign another contract. It was to show up every fucking major wrestling company on the planet and knock it out of the park. I wanted to be the best wrestler on the planet. And like, whether people like me or hate me, there was a string between 2016 to 2018. There was not a better wrestler on the planet than me that wasn't signed to a major like contract. Like, I was everywhere. Like, every major company that people wanted to work, other than being like directly on television, I was working at. Yeah. Like, I was traveling to England or Europe or Germany every 2 weeks. I was wrestling. And then I ended up, like, the only reason I had signed a deal with Lucha Underground was because I was still able to do whatever I wanted to. And I really liked that product at the time. Yeah. And it was really good money for like 2 months out of the year. It's like, okay, for 2 months, like, you're going to film this television show, get paid all the money, and then like still have your life. So I was like,
cool.
Awesome. Like, I just wanted to show up everywhere.
Yeah. So as we're winding down here, I think I can tie some of this last couple years of your career into a bow. You mentioned a word in passing, and I think this is maybe something that I think is a way that I can, if I'd describe Sami Callihan and maybe his mindset now, and you please correct me if I'm wrong. You said the word legacy, and that word has come up a lot recently. I don't know if it's my age or where I'm starting to get into my career. I've had a lot of conversations with guys about legacy. And like, are you now at this point where it's like everything that I'm doing is contributing toward a legacy that I can be proud of? And that's what it's about. Is that what, your decisions for your in-ring career? Legacy. Opening a wrestling school to pass on the next generation, legacy. Starting Pro Wrestling Revolver, your legacy. Like, all these things are helping contribute to a legacy that you will be remembered for and can pass on to the next generation. Are those things that enter your mind, or am I just speaking?
No, 100%. Right, it's all that body of work and that resume. I had told someone when I had signed to TNA, and then I wasn't signed to an exclusive. I was working by pay per appearance, and I busted my ass and killed it enough that I got offered that guarantee that I desperately wanted at the time. I wanted to be a guy. And I remember I had a great first run of my contract. It came to a point where my contract ran up the first time, and I could have went somewhere else. I had offers from other places, or I could stay at TNA. Look, I've told people before, like, TNA is like where I wanted to be. Like, I don't think there's a person that waves that flag. Very few people that worked there wave the flag as hard as me. I love that company. I want it to be better. I've been world champion. That's cool, but that wasn't important to me. What's important is people's going to look back in 20 years and be like, oh, yo, Sami Callihan's one of the people that like saved TNA. Sami Callihan's one of the people that helped make that company. And like, that's the same thing with Wrestling Revolver and everything else I'm doing behind the scenes in professional wrestling. Like, do I still have a lot in the tank wrestling wise? Yes, I'm finally getting back to where I want to be after breaking my leg. People seem to forget that I had a career-ending leg injury that I came back from. There's a reason I put on 40 pounds. It's because I couldn't fucking walk. And I'm just now, like, even though I've been back wrestling for about a year and a half since the injury, I'm just now feeling normal. But it's one of those things, like, the tagline for my company, Wrestling Revolver, is wrestling for our generation, by our generation. It's time for our generation to get handed the ball and be like, this is what professional wrestling can be. This is what our vision of professional wrestling. And I want to be one of the pioneers of exactly that.
Yeah. And I feel like when I see everything you're doing with your promotion and how different than it is, and how it stands out, and just the cerebral way you attack the business strategy of that promotion. I mean, I think there's so many things that younger guys can learn from that, current promotions. Like, man, you're just doing everything the right way, in a unique way. And I just want to commend you for it. I don't even have a question related to that. Other than, I guess, maybe if there's somebody that's listened to this, then this doesn't have to be a wrestling answer. This is a business answer, because you're a businessman. All the decisions of this epic tale you've told us are all like, they're business decisions along the way. If you're deciding to bet on yourself, is there something, is there a major business lesson that you could pass on to someone that you're doing right now and applying to promoting is Pro Wrestling Revolver, that you're like, this is something people need to keep in mind, whether that's wrestling business or any business? What are you doing that's making it so successful? Because it's freaking awesome.
One of the big things is, and I think this, I try to teach this to my students and other wrestlers that I help out in different companies. I love professional wrestling. I always want a job in professional wrestling. I don't want to, like, when I'm all broken down and can't wrestle anymore, I don't want to be thrown to the curb and like not be able to be in this business and go be a real estate agent or something. Nothing against that, but like, that's not what I want. I want to work in this business. Yeah. I've taught myself every fucking job in professional wrestling. Like, people, I don't think people realize I do all the promotion work with the help of Philip Samper, who's awesome, but I do all the video editing. I do all the graphic design. I do all the ticketing. I do all the travel. If there's a job in professional wrestling, I know it. And like, I try to tell all my students, you can't rely on being a good professional wrestler, because in today's day and age, everyone's a good professional wrestler for the most part. Like, make yourself so undeniable that it doesn't matter what job is asked of you. Oh, we need a head of ring crew. Oh, I can do that. Like, let's do it. Oh, we need someone in promotion and marketing. Oh, I can do that. Oh, we need someone as an agent. I can do that. We need someone in creative. I can do that. We need someone as the director in the truck. Oh, I can do that. We need someone that can be any job in professional wrestling. Like, teach yourself every job, because by doing every job, I feel like I also appreciate every person from ring crew to merch all the way up to the top, like the president of a company, because I've been in their position and I know what it takes. Like, there's not any job too small in professional wrestling to be looked down upon, because if it's not for every single person playing their part in perfect harmony, shit doesn't work.
Hell yeah. What a good lesson, man. And that's not just true for wrestling. That's true for any business. And I think any successful business that has a leader that's, leading them in the right way, it's because they respect everybody at every level of the business. Like you said, whether it's the guy delivering the mail or
and when they don't, it doesn't work. And when they don't, it doesn't work.
No,
that's when you get out of tune. That's like, you're trying to be a composer and like one person's playing rock and roll and another person's playing R&B.
Yeah, man. Well, what's next? What's next for Sami Callihan? I want you to give you an opportunity to plug. So I want to tell people where they can get more of Pro Wrestling Revolver, where they can get more of Sami Callihan, and then also what's next for you. So
extremely busy. Like, number one, always check out my company, the Wrestling Revolver, through my relationships with guys like John Moxley and everyone under the sun. Like, I truly feel like Pro Wrestling Revolver isn't just another indie company. It's wrestling for our generation, by our generation. It's what I feel my vision, my generation's vision of professional wrestling can be. But then on a professional level, you can always catch me on TNA. I'm back with TNA again. Loving it there. I'm working at MLW. I'm an extremely busy person. Like, I want to have my fingertips and footprints on everything in this generation of professional wrestling. And that's what I want to be remembered for.
Awesome. I love it. Well, thank you, Sami. Can I do my entrepreneurial hustle? And I've kept you for way longer than I was expecting, and you've been very generous with your time. Can I keep you for an extra 2 minutes so that I can do a little bonus Patreon story that I can offer the people that support me in this show?
Not doing it. Screw your Patreon.
Yeah, man, we'll hang out for a couple more minutes. We'll do a bonus story, and man, this has been awesome. I think there's entrepreneurs out there that are getting so much out of that journey and that epic tale that they can apply, whether it's they don't have to be involved in the wrestling business. There's so many ups and downs, the perseverance shown, the grit, the passion, all of those things that were required for you to still be doing what you're doing. I just want to commend you. I respect the hell out of you. And I really, really appreciate you coming on here and sharing your journey and your story.
I appreciate you, man, not to fluff your ego or anything, because it's your show. I've said this in interviews before. I've said this in backstage meetings. I don't think there's a lot of people in the professional wrestling business that is as underrated as Cody Deaner. Like I've said that many times when we were feuding, when we're working together. You will make chicken salad out of chicken shit every day of the week. It doesn't matter what role you're given. You're so versatile as a professional wrestler. And I 100% commend you for that.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate that very much. That's going to do it for another episode of Wrestling is Life is Wrestling with Cody Deaner, and part 2, the final part with Sami Callihan. Sami, thank you again for being so awesome, for giving us this detailed story of yours and this wild, wacky journey that really, I think, gets epitomized by this idea of perseverance. All these ups and downs. Just when you think Sami's going to make it, break through, accomplish his goal and his dream, something happens that gets that taken away. And I think the average person, when you listen to this full story of Sami Callihan, the average person would have given up, stopped right in the middle of this multiple times. Every time this obstacle gets put in front of Sami, or his hopes get put right in front of him, hopes and dreams are about to happen, and then boom, something happens and gets taken away from him. And this disappointment and heartache that happens throughout this wild roller coaster journey of Sami Callihan's wrestling career, you'd think, why aren't you just giving up, bro? That's what a lot of people are thinking. Well, there's something about Sami that decides, no, this passion is too much. I want to do this. This is the only thing I want to do. I'm just going to keep moving forward, reinventing myself, doing what has to be done to keep this dream alive. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to have Sami Callihan on the show, to share his story and his life with us, because wrestling is life is wrestling. And I think Sami Callihan's life is fascinating. I hope you did too. If you want some more of Sami Callihan, go to patreon.com/Cody Deaner and listen to the bonus story that's up there right now. Sign up for a free trial. Won't cost you a cent. You can listen to that bonus story as well as bonus stories with all of our past guests. Why don't you rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast on your platform of choice? And I would appreciate that very much. It would help our algorithm, and that means it's going to help everybody else find this wild, wacky show, this concept I put together called Wrestling is Life is Wrestling, where I talk to these wild people, listen to their wild stories, and we pull some life lessons out of those stories that I know is helping my listeners. If it's helping you, please post it on your social media, tag me at Cody Deaner, and let me know what helped you from the stories that you might have listened to over the last few weeks. Other ways you can help support the show is by going to prowrestlingtees.com/Cody Deaner. Get yourself a t-shirt. Go to cameo.com/Cody Deaner. Get yourself a personalized video from me to you. If you want to support me in person, see me at a merch table, meet me in person, see me wrestle live, well, let me tell you where you can do that. If you're listening to this when this episode drops, well, then I'm on my way to Philly right now. I'm going to be at the EC Dub Arena, the 2300 Arena in Philly, for TNA Wrestling. 2 nights of tapings. You can go to tnawrestling.com, get yourself your tickets, and you can see me live in Philly at the EC Dub Arena. This July 4th, Thursday, I'll be in Sudbury, Ontario for Rock Solid Wrestling, where I have a chance to become the Canadian heavyweight champion. Go to Rock Solid Wrestling. Just Google that. You can get yourself some tickets to the great Italian festival show that's going to be July 4th in Sudbury. On July 7th, why don't you go to the Essex Fun Fest in Essex, Ontario, and you will get to see some Border City wrestling. Always puts on a wicked awesome show. I will be there yet again. Then on July 14th, I will be with Crossfire Wrestling, defending my Crossfire Wrestling Tag Team Championships alongside my tag team partner, my road wife, Tyler Turva. If you're wondering why I'm calling him my road wife, then you haven't listened to my episode with Tyler Turva. Go back into the archives and listen to the Tyler Turva episode. It's one of my favorites that I've had. Then on July 20th and 21st, I will be in Montreal. That's Slammiversary weekend. You can get it on pay-per-view by getting the TNA Plus app, and you can see it live by going to tnawrestling.com and getting yourself some tickets. Then at the beginning of August, I will be with Again, TNA Wrestling continuing their total nonstop summer tour in Tampa, Florida. It's going to be a hot one, and I'm sure the crowd will be too. August 2nd and 3rd. Go to tnawrestling.com for more info. Then on August 10th, I will be with the Canadian Wrestling Federation in Niagara Falls, Ontario. They have a huge event, Resolution. Every year, they do a big Resolution event. It's going to be at the Meridian Center. You can get your tickets. Just type in Canadian Wrestling Federation, type in Resolution, get your tickets. I have a chance to become the CWF Tag Team Champion, and I will be fighting alongside a very, very good friend of mine. You might be familiar with him, the one and only Eric Young. Yes, myself and Eric Young have a chance to become the CWF Tag Team Champions. Where? With CWF Resolution. That's August 10th. Then the summer tour continues to roll on and on and on, but I'll tell you that over the next number of weeks. Then we're eventually going to be hitting in the fall, and I'm going to be going into schools as well. If you want to book me at your school, go to chrisgrayspeaks.com. That's Gray with an A, chrisgrayspeaks.com. You can learn more about what I'm offering the speaking world. I do keynote presentations. I do seminars. I do small workshops with leadership students or at-risk kids. I do all kinds of different things. I like to work alongside my clients, get a very personalized program put together for the group of students that you have a specific goal for or a theme for, or something that you really need to instill in these young kids. I help schools do that by bringing some of my stories and life lessons that I've learned in my journey. I connect it to themes, I connect it to lessons, and I really hope to inspire and motivate the next generation of young people. I've been doing it for a number of years. I look forward to doing it again, continuing to do it with my busy schedule all across Canada and United States. So go to chrisgrayspeaks.com and you can learn more about what I'm doing there. You can also go to patreon.com/Cody Diener, and you will see in the coming days what's going to be coming up over the next few weeks. You can also check me out on @Cody Diener, and I will be telling you who the next guest will be and what we have coming up over the next number of weeks. I'm not going to tell you right now, but I will say that over the next number of weeks, I'm going to be bringing you some very special episodes that are very, very dear and close to my heart. And I think it'll be a very fitting way to start to wrap up this first year of Wrestling is Life is Wrestling by really talking to multiple people about a very special person that has affected my life greatly. So just be on the lookout for that @Cody Diener, and there'll be some very special episodes that are going to be coming your way that I'm very proud of, and I'm really very excited to be sharing with the wrestling world. So again, go to @Cody Diener. You can learn about what's going to be coming your way over the next number of weeks. Thanks again to Sami Callihan, this week's guest, and over the next number of weeks, and almost as we get to this 1-year anniversary coming close, we're always going to know that we're always going to learn something that I've known for many, many years, and we learn every single time we jump here on this show and you listen to me and the stories that I am sharing with my guests. Well, you know, and I know that is this. Wrestling is life, is wrestling. We'll see you next week, guys.
Wrestling is life. Wrestling is life. Wrestling is life, is wrestling.